Good evening and welcome to the Arundel Camera Club live stream for Wednesday, October 28th. My name is John Milliker and I'm the club president for the 2020-2021 season. The Arundel Camera Club was founded in 1957 and exists to promote the art, science, and education in all aspects and fields of photography. Normally we meet at 7 p.m. every Wednesday evening during the school year in Severna Park, Maryland. However, with the current disruptions, we've decided to continue business as normal in a virtual space, which allows us to protect our members and guests from the current COVID-19 situation. For more information about us, please visit us at www.arundelcameraclub.org. Before we get to tonight's topic, we have a few upcoming schedule items to cover. And with that, I'll turn it over to your program's chair, Christine Milliker.
Good evening. Beginning November 1st, you can start making photographs for November's photo assignment, which has the theme of cooking and baking. Please have your assignments in tonight by 10 p.m. I extended the time a little bit for October's assignment of board games and card games. Wednesday, November 4th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I totally messed that up.
Sorry. Need a little help there, dear?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Make sure you get, what Christine's trying to make sure we do is make sure you get your images into her. She extended the deadline to 10 p.m. tonight on the October photo assignment of board games and card games. And next week we will have that program on that. That's when is that? November 4th?
November 4th.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry.
And then it might be a little confusing. Starting on November 1st, you can start the photo assignments for the theme of cooking and baking, which is going to be great.
Okay, I can take over from here.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
Wednesday, November 11th at 7 p.m. we have a program with Greg Holden on the theme of leading lines. And then Wednesday, November 18th at 7 p.m. is our photo competition. It is color and monochrome digital with an open theme. Keep an eye out for an email from our contest chair, Lewis, for instructions. And if you have questions about competitions and submitting your own photos, please see our website. Contact Lewis at contests@arundelcameraclub.org or ask here on our group. There will be no meeting on Thanksgiving Wednesday, November 25th, but the photo assignment for November will be due that night by 6 p.m., please. And tonight we have Steve Hane doing a program for us. Steve says he will give a brief overview of the photo cases he creates based on period originals and how he used them in his photography and to help others with their work. Steve has been a professional photographer since 2005 when he started his aerial photography business, a Metro Photo LLC in Maryland. In 2010, he moved to Central Ohio and continued to service his clients in Maryland. He also decided to expand his geographic scope. He has been doing wet plate photography since taking John Coffer's class in 2015, and later that year, he took Michael Rhodes' Phoenix case making class. 2 years later, in 2017, he purchased Michael's company, Modern Day Antique, and he has been continuing the work of creating Reproduction mid-19th century photo cases and modern interpretation since then. Since then, he has expanded his offerings to a range from images taken with natural light to artificial light with strobes in his photo studio he built with the help of his father-in-law in fall of 2017. Steve is interested in promoting photography that emphasizes creativity, regard with strobes in his photo studio that he built with his father-in-law. And today we have the privilege to mix the techniques of the past with the technology of every era that followed. Steve believes in the choice of the artist to pick the best tools to accomplish his or her vision. It is fine to be a purist or be modern or any blend in between. We need more art that speaks to people and heightens their human experience. Welcome, Steve.
All right. Thanks, Christine. So basically, I make photo cases, and this is an example here of one that I made and an original. So this is an original daguerreotype from the like 1840s, early 1850s. As I know that you're probably all familiar with the wet plate process that John has told me that you should be well versed in the photography of Matthew Brady and some of his that he was able to get the start to some of the great wet plate collodion artists like Alexander Gardner and Timothy O'Sullivan that did so much of the work during the American Civil War that helped kind of like spawn like photojournalism. What I'm here to talk about are the photo cases that individuals use. So back before you had iPhones in our pockets and back, 20, 30 years ago and beyond, we carried photos with us in our wallets. And these cases are kind of the equivalent of that in the mid-19th century. This was the first time when, starting with the beginning of the daguerreotype process in 1839, and then growing from there into the 1840s, this was the first time that you could have small, detailed images of people and loved ones. Before that, you had the ability to, itinerant painters could come along and do paintings, but many times that those were crude, especially like in small scales. So if people had means, they could have those like big portraits. If you ever go and visit homes like plantation houses, that in the main hallway you've always got these big like pictures, and that was like the upper class people, the equivalent of thousands, probably $5,000, $10,000 and up, in order to have like a big portrait. So that is a status symbol there. This made it possible for middle class individuals to own small images of themselves and other like family members. These photo cases gave a way to be able to, like, if you were traveling back then, that you're going to be traveling for not overnight trips typically, that you may be traveling for weeks at a time. So this gave an opportunity for the average person to be able to take with them pictures of their loved ones when they may be gone for weeks or months at a time on trips. So basically what I was looking at, that I'm going to talk about, this is an example of an early photo. This is an actually 4x5, and it's a daguerreotype. The difference between like daguerreotypes, that I won't get into all the chemistry and everything, but basically if you were looking at a daguerreotype image, that it's like a mirror. It's a fixed image in a mirror, basically. There is a silver plated piece of copper that has been buffed to a mirror shine, and then an image is fixed on there with a chemical process. Collodion, on the other hand, takes a piece of metal, like black metal or glass. It could be colored glass, like black glass or ruby glass, and you can put an image on there. If it's clear glass, then you can take that the image, you could flip it the other way, and you could back it with something black, because basically you have the areas that are dark are basically gradations of being clear, so you can see the dark behind. And that's why, like with something that is an image that's on something opaque, like a piece of metal, then the image is reversed, because the image is actually on the front instead of how we're used to. And the same is true like with a daguerreotype, that you're looking on the front side with the image on it, versus if you flip that around with like a glass negative, then you're looking, the back side is actually the side that has the image on it, much like in film photography, where you have the emulsion side is basically like the side away. If you are like doing a print, that you've got emulsion to emulsion, like on paper, when you're doing the when you're projecting the image. So the what you wind up with is what we're used to seeing, like with our naked eye, because the camera obviously is like flipping and reversing the image like through the lens. Let's see. So the parts of the case that the original cases didn't have, like this a brass preserver. So I'll talk about that in a little bit. But basically, you have this piece of glass, this cover glass, that slips in on top, and it presses against. This is what we call the pinch pad. There may be other names that other people have used for it, but this is a pinch pad that is, it's like a velvet paper that's wrapped around a piece of cardboard. It's possible just to take like a thin piece of velvet and double it over itself and use that as basically, you have to have something that has give to be able to get that like friction fit there. And then you'll have a mat because you need to have an air gap between the image and the glass. Otherwise, you could potentially get issues, especially if there was varnish. It might like over time at least get the image to adhere to the glass. So that mat isn't just there to hide like messy edges that may be on the edge here, or just look pretty, but it serves a practical purpose, just like mats today in framing. So with this, this particular example does not have like a preserver around, a brass preserver that gives like a finished look, but I'll get into more of that later. And then you have a velvet cover pad. This is a non-detailed velvet cover pad. It's so it's just plain velvet. And this particular case has a clasp, so a little clasp closure. That's very nice. Some of those cover pads could also be used for advertising. So this is particularly handy if you have like examples. You can get a lot of information based on like who the photographer was, if the cover pad actually has like information. This example here is has the name of the photographer and the location. With this one, it is in Troy, New York. It's kind of neat how they describe on here. It's number 2 First Street opposite Troy House. So probably some hotel that was in Troy that they were next to. So other things, the original cases were often, this is like a leather type case. So you had a wooden frame underneath here that then they took embossed leather and adhered to, and basically that's the in a nutshell the assembly for those original cases. There were other cases that came later in the later part of the 1850s. This is a broken one, just to kind of show you how things, like sometimes you'll find these that aren't quite right. Still, you have like a good side here, and the other side has been like broken at some point. These cases these were thermoplastic cases. and they were an example of like an early injection molding process. And okay, I want to make sure that I'm still getting a good signal there. So with this early injection molding process, they were able to produce kind of different, like really detailed, high relief cases, and that were different than the original ones. That they're still neat, and some of these had other scenes that they were able to depict. Sometimes there'd be flags and whatnot in it, especially during the Civil War period, that you found these types of cases fairly frequently. This business that I run here, where we manufacture these cases, Michael Rhodes started it in 2012 and discovered that there were a lot of these people that collect, particularly daguerreotypes, and like the earliest photos, things that are very rare and sometimes very interesting scenes. So people that collect these images sometimes have cases that are worn out, they're broken, they've got this fantastic image, but they don't have a really good case to put it in. So what Michael decided to do was he could take an original case and make a copy of it using a molding process.
Steve, I have a couple questions for you.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Would people put anything else in the cases of interest?
I didn't quite kind of dropped out there. What was the question?
Would people put anything else in these cases?
Yeah, I mean, they over time, when they became less popular as photo cases, apparently in some countries that I've heard, they got converted into cigarette cases and things like that. But before that, I mean, paintings and like small paintings before photography was popular, that cases still existed before that. And this just like with photography, it became a much bigger thing and was far more popular.
And when did injection molding start? Do you know?
The injection molding, it's like late 1850s. I think off the top of my head that maybe like a patent of like 1857, something like that. Yeah.
Would people have used these? I know from our history of doing some of this stuff, used it as like, I know they used hair to make like jewelry and brooches and stuff. Would they have used some of these cases maybe to preserve some of that stuff?
Yeah, it's possible. I'm not really like an expert in all the, like basically my knowledge has been my experience just like creating the reproductions. So I could definitely see that as a possibility, that these were widely available and people got creative, and especially in that era, having other like mementos, because the Victorians in general were very sentimental, and I think that was a popular thing. Photography fit right into that sentimentality. There was a lot of interest, like in mourning, that there were all kinds of like rituals, and death was a lot more common. That people died generally younger. You had children that died in childbirth, and children that died just young. So that the photography offered an opportunity to be able to capture images. You did have some like post-mortem photography. Yeah, I had an example that I was just actually making a copy of an ambrotype that one of my clients had of a toddler in a coffin. So yeah, there's examples of that kind of thing, that just in general preserving like memories, and and in general, I think that there was a willingness to uh, go in a variety of different directions, including like embracing like grief and loss through photography. So does that answer the question? Or
Yeah, I think that did a really good job.
yeah.
Sorry to bring some of
Okay.
that in, but
No, that's fine. Yeah, no, not a problem. Yeah, and if anybody has any questions, that I'm here for you guys. That otherwise, I'll continue. Basically, with the how we put together these cases, that we take. This is a 9th plate case, so extremely popular. 9th and 6th plate cases were some of the most popular sizes. The 9th plate cases, the 6th plate cases were like 3 1/4 by 2 3/4, and the 9th plate cases were, gosh, what is that, like 2 inches by 2.5 inches. That was like the image size. So what we do is we take a mold like this. So we'll have a prototype that basically is just boxes. So we just make the box halves, and then we cast a mold. This is a silicone mold material that we pour into a mold. Then we, to be able to create this mold, you take it off of the original part, the prototype, and then you have this finished silicone mold, and we pour resin into it. And this is the result, like a casting. So basically, it is a cold process, not like thermoplastic is just like plastic. Most injection molded plastic is generally like a process that involves like injection and injecting into a mold, like under some pressure and generally with heat. This is a process that is room temperature chemistry that we mix together, a part A and part B. If you've ever done anything with epoxy, same type of thing, that you have the resin and there's a hardener that goes along with it. You can add dyes, so you could have something that basically is clear, and then you make it like black. This particular product that I commonly use is already dyed black. Black is really easy to be able to match because black is black. And what we do is we take the two halves and we'll hinge them together and get a finished box that's kind of like this. This is one that I've attached a top with a detail on it on one side, but this is a cloth bookbinding, basically like a fabric tape. We attach here, so there's an inside hinge, an outside hinge, and then we have the detailed top that then gets attached with a small amount of that same resin, because resin sticks to itself essentially. So we're basically gluing on the tops, and then when we're finished and we have this all put together, then we sand these three edges clean and attach hardware. So we make brass hooks and eyes, just like this. So these are solid brass. This came from like a die, this hook here, and I stamped this out of a small hand-operated arbor press that basically brings a small, like 1 inch by 1 inch block down, and and pops this out of a thin sheet of brass. And then we cut and make the eye hardware to go in there and get that attached. So they're similar to the originals. The originals were a little bit nicer because they had like nice machines, and we were making like, instead of making thousands upon thousands at a time, that we're making a few hundred cases in a year. So this allows us to do kind of like a one-off process. Most of the work that we do is custom. We pretty much do all the different sizes, like original sizes. Plus, we offer some modern sizes, including 4x5. I have a new 5x7 case that I've been working on. I have not gotten that released for ordering, but that's something that within the next few days, like later this week or next week, I'm going to have that available to order. And this is how we attach the cases. We use clamps around to attach the case tops on there, so that pressure, it's like gluing anything else in carpentry, right? That you want the two sides to be adhered well with pressure. And this is the unfinished case. Again, we'll sand these parts here. And I've got an example of this particular case right over here. This is one that you may appreciate. I've taken this style leather case and added a detail from Fort McHenry. This is a 3-inch version of the National Parks Quarter that I had taken one of these like resin tops. So this was made with an original that basically making a prototype, putting a leather texture on top of it, and then I made a mold so that I can make castings that feel like they're leather, have that same texture. And then I drilled out of one of those, and I placed the 3-inch version of this quarter in there, and then made a mold of that. So this is one of the ways that I try to be creative with making new cases and new designs that weren't original but in the same style. One of the other things that I do is embossing velvet. So we have embossing stamps. At this time, actually, John was able to help me with using his laser to be able to do custom embossing that we would take a laser and be able to etch into the velvet material. One of the easier ways that I found is getting embossing stamps that are also made out of silicone rubber. So they're great for being able to withstand some heat. And we just wet the velvet and basically place the velvet on top of that stamp and get an impression, so it makes a nice, clean, permanent impression on the velvet, and then we complete the velvet pad. We also make the mats. These are resin mats, the same material, just a one that starts out clear and you can dye. And we have been adding it's like a gold powder to the surface of these molds, and it gives a really nice gold look. We can also use gold acrylic paint that also will give a nice gold simulated gold look. I have been working on doing embossed metal some thin metal. Just that process, because I've got hand-operated machines, pretty much just doing small quantities. It's getting a reliable result has been challenging, so I've been sticking with what works. But that is something that I'm working on. One of the things I was talking about before is like the preserver. So this is a thin bit of metal that wraps around the entire case here. And what I can do is show you, let me see here, how that works, because it's useful if you have cases and images that you've collected, or you may have like family heirlooms. One of the best ways to get a image out of the case, that you want to check to make sure that there's glass over the top of it. You don't want to put a suction cup straight onto like the image if it happens to be just out there by itself. But use a suction cup, and then you can pull on the image. And sometimes they're a little tight, so you want to use gentle pressure. Be careful. These things have been around for 150 years at least, sometimes more. This guy has definitely more than 150 years. And what you will find is this thin brass that wraps around the whole image package. So this one, being a daguerreotype, it has been resealed. So this is an archival tape that a collector had used to reseal. But what you'll find is this image plate, and then the mat that you can see here, and the piece of glass, that cover glass, and it's all wrapped up into one nice little package that then slides into the case. And this example here, this is a case that has gotten separated, and no one has rehinged it yet. Maybe a project that I'll do later, but it slides right in there. It's really cool. So many of these images, I mean, they use like these standard sizes, and I really like how you can take from one case to another and slide it right in there, because they standardized this. There were companies that made a lot of these cases all around the world. Sometimes there was differences between country to country. They may have slightly different measurements, or one size became more popular than another. But at least for most of the cases that I found, a quarter plate is a quarter plate all the world around. Same thing with a 6 plate, and so some more oddball sizes, but that's that's kind of just it. And let me see here.
Another quick question for you, Steve.
Yeah.
If people are checking heirloom images, what are things they should be looking for if they want to make sure it'll last much longer?
Yeah. I mean, basically with the heirloom images, I am not an expert in like sealing daguerreotype images and that kind of thing. Mostly, I think that the image like degradation is if you don't have like a good air seal on daguerreotype images. But check out the Daguerrean Society website, and I'll get the URL for that. You can look up Daguerrean Society, but that's kind of hard to spell. Like, I've kind of figured it out now, but I'll send that to Christine and John, so they can get it out to folks if they're interested, because that's they have a wealth of knowledge in their membership, and they can explain the basics and like being old images sealed up and preserved properly.
If you look in chat, John already put up the link for you.
Oh, okay, great, excellent. Okay, where am I supposed to be looking in the chat?
Oh,
okay.
sorry. It's in the Facebook
like,
chat. I was talking to the people watching from home.
Oh, Facebook chat. Okay, great. Yeah. Okay. Good. I guess what if you want to put up my screen there with the website, I can just kind of walk through this real quick. So everybody see that? All right. So one of the things that I just started offering last year are these photo case ornaments, which are basically just halves of the cases. So in this image here, that I've hung a few examples from a Christmas tree here in my studio, and that you can put, I mean, basically you can put anything in that is, fairly thin. So whether you've got an antique image, you could slide that like in behind the mat, or you can put a modern print in there. And I can do pretty much any design that you're interested in that I offer for the case sizes. I've mostly been offering the 16th plate, real tiny ones, about 35 millimeter frame size is what the 16th plate is. The 9th plate is a little bit bigger, and then the 6th plate is about the size of a regular, like a wallet size image. And there's another example of them on the tree. And here's just side by side. For these, I have been, and rather than using glass that I've been cutting out and putting like a thin crystal clear plastic, that way to, spare some weight on the tree. And also keep the cost down, but mostly it's the weight, because the glass is not particularly expensive that we put into these to start with, and then they're not breakable as well. And so you can see those examples here. You can peruse that later. I also offer replacement hardware. So if you are if you've got some of these cases and you're missing like a hook and eye sets, I do those. I also have replacement pinch pads. Sometimes those wear out, and especially they get discolored. And offer replacement cover pads and that kind of stuff. And pieces of glass. If you're missing glass, I can get you replacement glass. And yeah, all the different sizes I have on here. The 5x7 case I'll have up later this week or next, like I said. The sizes range from the tiniest, the 16th plate case, all the way up to whole plate cases. So the whole plate case is 6.5 by 8.5 inches. I am looking at and working on an 8x10 frame. Plus, I may do an 8x10 case, the same kind of leather look case as the 4x5. And I'll show you the 5x7 case that I've got here. So we can switch back to the video, and this is the 5x7 case. So same kind of idea as the 4x5, just larger. And it's a little bit different texture. But this has a plain cover pad. And I don't have the mat with this inside this case at the moment. But it's the same type of design. This is actually a design that John helped me to that he lasered this out of some pieces of wood, and then I took those pieces of wood and I was in a variety of sizes, and I was able to do some different treatments to make these like basically brand new mats that were inspired by an original design. Any other questions?
Yes. Do you offer cases with a place on both sides for photos?
Yes, actually, I do. So the normal cases, like the period original cases, oftentimes only had a shallower side for the cover pad. Uh, they weren't that much shallower, but it's like by like an eighth of an inch or maybe less than that off the top of my head. These cases that I made are a 1/4 inch deep on both sides. So I just made the same depth because I was creating it myself and wanted to make it easier to be able to do that. And so most of the case options you'll see on the website have that ability to, that is an ordering option, that I've got ordering forms for each different size. If you don't see that there and you're interested in getting a double case, I can always do that. Just send me an email. The email address on there. You can also, just in order, just have remarks like, "Oh, I'd like to get the double image case," and if that wasn't an option there, then I can just charge you for the difference. And basically, it's just the difference in cost for another like mat and cover glass for that. So that's pretty much the size of that. And I definitely have done a bunch of double image cases for folks.
And one more question. How did you
Yep.
get the images of the Fort McHenry quarter enlarged to the size of the case cover?
Oh, that was the original is actually that size. So it's I think I got it handy here. With from the U.S. Mint, that they actually produced this series of 3-inch wide. They're like 5-ounce silver coins. So this was a variety of different series. These are quarters that, and like all of these, like 50 national park quarters, and I think the presidential ones maybe. Like a lot of them are available in that 3-inch, like sterling silver size. So,
Can people use your cases for thin, modern, or digital photos?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean basically they're just limited by the like your imagination, what you can put into the depth that the case allows. Most of the cases are about a 1/4 inch deep. And then you have to subtract out the depth for the glass. You can have slightly thinner glass if you have something that's thicker. And then the depth of the mat. So.
Okay. Do we have any other questions? There is a comment from John. He says it'll be hard to get that quarter into a pinball machine.
That's true. Yeah, you'd need to get some change for that in the pinball machine.
What's the oddest photo you've had to make a custom case for?
Most of the cases like that, I don't necessarily see what the images are. I mean, sometimes people will, but you know what? There was one that that the guy, he was a Daguerrean Society like member, and he had and it was an image that was taken of him, and when like he was ordering the case, he had sent me an image like from an ancestor or something like that, like, oh well, this is the size, it's like 5x7, and so I said, oh, okay, yeah, that should be fine. And I've got a like an oval mat that I was able to I think that covered it or something, because I didn't have a 5x7 option at the time. And then he showed me what the context was, and yeah, the image was it was different. That yeah, it yeah, I don't want to give out too much, like because it was like potentially controversial, but in like an ironic sense. So yeah, there's been some odd stuff, yeah, but not that much. Yeah.
If people want a case in time for Christmas, do you have a recommended time to order them by?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say like ideally by the end of November, and if we get backed up with orders, but we're generally pretty good for being able to take something from like if we don't have any parts available for anything, to make something up like in about 2 weeks. Just as things get busy right now, that they're not that busy at the moment. But I would say as a ballpark, just end of November, like get your orders in, and then we can pretty well like get things done. It's possible that we may be able to get stuff done like in the middle of December, like for. But then, yeah, you're just dealing with like the ability of the post office to deliver the thing. Mostly it's post office stuff. So, but priority mail, I mean, typically is about 2 days from here. So it just depends. Just ask if it's in December. Just say, hey, I want it by Christmas, and I'll let you know, like if I can get it done. So.
Okay.
So.
Do you offer any workshops on making the cases virtually?
I do. So I have taught 3 classes this year, and I have all those sessions are online. So if you sign up for the case making class, that you can get access to all those classes. Right now, I have not set like the next class. I was going to teach one like this fall, and I didn't aggressively market it because I was kind of tired. But that I didn't have any sign-ups, so I'm not teaching one this fall. But I'm going to look at scheduling something in like the first quarter, like middle of the first quarter of the year, like probably second half of February, something like that. We have not, my wife and I haven't figured out vacation plans. So it would be after that. So somewhere around like February 14th or after is what I'm looking at right now. But I do have a manual that people can buy. That's for $50, and I don't think I have the link. I don't have the link on the website right now. But you can also like buy the case making class. Is that information is on the website. Just currently, the dates aren't correct, but the sessions will be the same. They'll just be to be determined dates, basically. But it'll give you kind of a general idea of what we'll be going over.
Okay.
Yep. So. Mm-hmm.
I put out a last call for questions.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have anything.
Also on the subject of classes, that I've done a couple of in-person classes that I've done here at my studio. That's in Thornville, Ohio. We're about 6 hours from Central Maryland. 6 to 7, something like that, for a drive. I've used to live in Montgomery Village, outside of Washington D.C., and my brother still lives in the Baltimore area. So yeah, a lot of connections with Maryland. But I do, once the pandemic is kind of resolved, then I'll be offering in-person classes. And in the past, I've done those in the fall. But we'll see like what the demand is. If you have interest in that, I'm happy to just let me know, and I'll let you know like when I have stuff scheduled.
Okay. Looks like we
So,
don't have any more
other questions?
Looks like we don't have any more questions.
Great.
Um,
Okay, sounds good.
so thank you, Steve, for your presentation. And join us
Yeah,
next
thank you.
Wednesday at 7 p.m. for our discussion on our October photo assignment of board games and card games. Please remember to vote for your favorite submissions this week on our Facebook page. Also, I want to let everyone know that the fundraiser for Brian Booroo's has been rescheduled for Thursday, November 19th. So join us for delicious foods, and every meal bought from that special menu benefits our club. Thank you again, Steve, for a great presentation. And thank you, everyone, for joining us over in Facebook. And see you again next week. Good night.